Imagine turning on your computer in 2026 and realizing that the way you've used Windows for years is quietly changing right in front of you. Not with one dramatic announcement, not with a single update that flips everything overnight, but through a slow shift that most people barely notice until it starts affecting how they work, how they play, and even how much control they feel they still have over their own device. For many users, Windows has always been the default choice, the familiar environment that just works, the operating system that powered school projects, office jobs, gaming nights, and creative work. But something different is happening now, and a growing number of people believe that 2026 might be the last truly comfortable year for traditional Windows users before the platform evolves into something fundamentally new. If you look closely at recent updates, you can see a pattern forming. Microsoft is pushing deeper into cloud integration than ever before. Features that once lived fully on your local machine are slowly becoming tied to online services, accounts, and subscriptions. At first, this feels convenient. Syncing settings across devices, accessing files from anywhere, and having AI-powered tools ready at a click sounds like progress. But over time, users start noticing that more and more of their experience depends on being connected, logged in, and part of a larger ecosystem they don't fully control. The shift isn't necessarily bad, but it marks a clear departure from the old idea of a personal computer as something entirely yours. One of the biggest changes driving this feeling is the rise of AI integration across the Windows environment. The operating system is no longer just a launcher for apps. It's becoming an assistant that watches, predicts, and suggests. For some people, this feels like the future arriving early. Tasks that once took minutes can be done in seconds, and workflows become faster. But for others, it introduces new concerns about privacy, performance, and the increasing complexity of a system that used to feel simple. When every search, every file, and every setting is influenced by AI recommendations, the experience begins to feel less neutral and more guided. Almost like the operating system is shaping how you use your computer rather than simply responding to your commands. At the same time, hardware requirements continue to creep upward. Over the last few years, users have already seen stricter compatibility rules, security chips becoming mandatory, and older machines being left behind sooner than expected. For many people, this creates a quiet frustration. A computer that still feels fast and capable suddenly can't run the latest version of Windows, not because it's slow, but because it doesn't meet a specific technical requirement. This gradual push toward newer hardware aligns with Microsoft's vision of a more secure and standardized ecosystem, but it also means that the era of keeping a Windows PC running comfortably for a decade might be fading. Another major factor contributing to the idea that 2026 could be a turning point is the increasing presence of subscriptions. Software that once required a one-time purchase is now often tied to monthly or yearly plans. Even features within Windows itself are becoming more connected to services that live beyond the operating system. For businesses, this model offers predictable updates and continuous improvements. For individual users, it can feel like the line between owning a tool and renting access to it is becoming blurry. Over time, this changes how people think about their computers. Instead of being a stable environment that evolves slowly, Windows starts to feel more like a constantly shifting platform. Gaming, which has long been one of Windows' strongest advantages, is also undergoing transformation. Cloud gaming services, cross-platform play, and new hardware strategies are reshaping expectations. While Windows remains a powerful gaming platform, the focus is slowly expanding beyond local performance toward streaming and hybrid experiences. For some players, this is exciting because it opens doors to new ways of accessing games. For others, it raises questions about long-term ownership and whether the classic idea of installing and running a game entirely offline will remain as common as it once was. Security changes are another reason people sense a major shift coming. Microsoft is investing heavily in creating a more locked-down environment to protect users from modern threats. Features like stronger sandboxing, stricter app permissions, and deeper integration with cloud-based security services aim to make the system safer by default. Yet, these same protections can sometimes feel restrictive to power users who enjoy customizing every aspect of their setup. The balance between safety and freedom has always been part of the Windows identity, and as security measures become more advanced, that balance may tilt toward a more controlled experience. Beyond technical changes, there's also a cultural shift happening within the Windows community. More users are exploring alternatives than ever before. Linux distributions have become easier to install, more visually polished, and more capable of handling everyday tasks without requiring deep technical knowledge. Mac OS continues to evolve with strong performance and seamless integration across devices. Even web-based environments are becoming powerful enough that some people rely almost entirely on browsers for work and communication. Windows is no longer the unquestioned default for everyone, and this competition is influencing how Microsoft shapes the future of the platform. What makes 2026 feel special is that it sits right at the edge between two eras. On one side is the familiar Windows experience that millions of people grew up with, a system that allowed deep customization, offline independence, and a sense of ownership over the machine. On the other side is a new vision where the operating system acts more like a service than a static product, constantly evolving and closely connected to the cloud. The transition isn't sudden, but the signs are becoming clearer with every update. Many longtime users notice subtle changes in the interface and design philosophy as well. Settings move to new locations, classic control panels disappear, and legacy features slowly fade away. These updates aim to simplify the experience for new users, but they can feel disorienting to people who have used Windows for decades. The operating system starts to feel less like a familiar workspace and more like a modern app that changes frequently. For some, this constant evolution is exciting because it keeps things fresh. For others, it introduces a sense of instability that wasn't as present in earlier versions. There's also the question of data and personalization. Modern Windows builds rely heavily on user data to deliver recommendations, optimize performance, and provide AI-driven assistance. While these features can be incredibly useful, they also spark debates about transparency and control. Users increasingly ask where their data goes, how it's used, and whether they truly have the ability to opt out without losing key functionality. This conversation reflects a broader trend across the tech industry, but within Windows, it feels especially significant because of how deeply integrated the system has become with online services. As more features move toward automation, another change emerges. The role of the user shifts from active operator to guided participant. Tasks that once required manual setup are now handled automatically. Updates install themselves, settings adjust based on usage patterns, and AI tools suggest ways to organize files or complete projects faster. For beginners, this reduces complexity and lowers the learning curve. For experienced users, it sometimes feels like the system is taking away choices that once defined the Windows experience. The workplace environment adds another layer to this transformation. Businesses are adopting cloud-based workflows at a rapid pace, and Windows is evolving to support this new reality. Virtual desktops, remote collaboration tools, and centralized management systems are becoming standard features. Employees might not even realize that the Windows environment they use is partially hosted in the cloud rather than entirely on their device. This shift makes IT management easier for organizations, but it also changes how individuals interact with their computers on a daily basis. Education is following a similar path. Schools and universities increasingly rely on web platforms and cloud-based software, meaning that the operating system itself becomes less important than the services running on top of it. Students who grow up in this environment may not develop the same attachment to Windows that previous generations had. Instead of seeing it as a core identity, they might view it as just one option among many, interchangeable with other platforms that offer similar capabilities. Even the way updates are delivered contributes to the sense that something fundamental is changing. Major feature drops arrive more frequently, sometimes altering workflows overnight. While rapid innovation brings exciting new tools, it also means users must adapt constantly. The stability that once defined long-term Windows releases feels different now, replaced by a faster pace that resembles mobile operating systems more than traditional desktop software. None of this necessarily means that Windows is becoming worse. In many ways, it's becoming more powerful, more secure, and more connected than ever before. The question isn't whether the platform will continue to succeed, but whether the experience that longtime users consider classic Windows will remain the same. For some people, the coming years will feel like an upgrade to a smarter, more capable environment. For others, it might feel like the end of an era defined by flexibility and independence. As 2026 unfolds, discussions within tech communities often revolve around adaptation. Some users embrace the new direction wholeheartedly, excited by the potential of AI-driven workflows and seamless cloud integration. Others begin experimenting with alternative operating systems, searching for environments that feel closer to the traditional desktop experience they remember. This diversity of reactions highlights how deeply personal the relationship between a user and their operating system can be. Ultimately, the idea that 2026 might be the last good year for Windows users isn't about doom or negativity. It's about recognizing that a major transition is already underway. The operating system is evolving from a standalone product into a dynamic service shaped by modern technology trends. Whether this shift feels positive or challenging depends largely on what each person values most in their computing experience. Some will welcome the changes as a natural step forward, while others may look back at this moment as the final chapter of a more familiar and predictable version of Windows. And maybe that's the real story behind all of this. Technology never stands still, and every platform eventually transforms to match the world around it. Windows is not disappearing, and it isn't necessarily losing its relevance. Instead, it's moving into a new phase that reflects the priorities of a connected, AI-driven future. The question isn't whether the shift has started, because it clearly has. The real question is how users will respond, how they will adapt, and whether they will see the next generation of Windows as an evolution they're excited to join or a turning point that inspires them to explore something different.